agritourism event checklist. And Carrie does have some paper copies of those. And if you have a laptop with you too, there's also a virtual way to see that checklist, and then you can get that later on as well. And then we'll do about 15 minutes of questions and answers. So if you have questions throughout, please jot them down and think about them, and then we'll do them all together at the end. My name is Lylee Rauch Kacenski, and I'm the communications manager at the Center for an Agricultural Economy, also called CAE. And we're a small nonprofit in the rural northeastern part of Vermont. We were founded in 2004 to build a regenerative, just, and healthy local food system that creates socially thriving and economically vital rural communities. We work in many parts of the food cycle, including place-based education in our local schools, farm business planning and advising. We have an incubator kitchen, low interest loans, and even a fleet of trucks that gets products off the farm and out into the community. We do have a booth here, so come see me and visit our booth. And if you're virtual, we have a virtual booth set up as well. And I feel really privileged to use our organization to amplify and support the work of the farmers and food businesses in Vermont. And I'm thrilled to turn the microphone over to Kelly, Sara, and Melanie, 3 farmers who have expertise in so many things, including agritourism, to share their own stories. So thank you so much for being here, and I'll turn it over to the reason why we're all really here now. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Hi all, I'm Kelly Notterman. We have a farm in East Hardwick, Vermont called Snug Valley Farm. We do grass-fed beef, pasture-raised pork, lamb, and 7,000 pumpkins a year, approximately. So how we got started in farming, we're a multi-generational farm. My husband's father and mother started the farm as a dairy and then eventually did grass-fed beef. And then in the early 2010s, we started to succession plan, and now we're kind of a joint. We still do the farm with our family. So we incorporated agritourism into our farm operation to really bring some more customer relationships together so that our customers can know who we are and become like more loyal customers, really. So we don't do regular events, like a lot of events happening. We do 1 or 2 to 3 a year. We usually pasture walks. And then this couple years ago, we incorporated a burger night with a pasture walk, which went over really well. And then we also sell products at it. COVID kind of stopped all of that. And so we continued to do our farm operation for the last couple of years, just selling products and doing home delivery, which we also stopped doing farmers markets, which was our real connection to our customer, where we got to meet them and get to know them. But we didn't want to take risks for my in-laws and my family. So we ended up really trying to build e-newsletters and things like that. So this last year, this picture was, I think this was this year. Yep. So this was our farm party that we actually just recently had, which we did a pasture walk, whole hog barbecue, potluck, and live music. So it was a big event, 150 people attended. And I think it was this big success. The band is actually made up of like half of them are farmers as well. And the lead singer guy on the left is a organic dairy farmer that's right next door to us. So it was really fun. And we gave people the opportunity. We invited all of our customers from across the state to come. This was a great event to like kind of bring everybody back together. It was outdoors. It felt really safe for everyone. And we were able to move animals together on the pasture, teach people about regenerative agriculture, make the connections with the customers we built over the last 2 years, because we started to get new customers that had never met us at farmers markets. And so being able to connect with them and show them what they had been buying for the last 2 years was really powerful. And people were just like raving about it and having a good time. So it was really great for our family. So we're planning on doing another one next year. And then we also do pumpkins in the fall. And so we're trying to coordinate more pumpkins with the agritourism to cross-sell our products. So we're currently working on that. And I think that's pretty much that's pretty much it for me. But yeah, so it's been a lot of fun though. I'll turn it over to Sarah. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. So glad to be here. Agritourism has been a real game changer for our family farm, and I'll tell you a little bit about it. My name's Sara Schlosser. Along with my husband, Bob, we own Sandiwood Farm in Woolkit, Vermont, also known as the gateway to the Northeast Kingdom. We have a little over 80 acres. 35 is a sugar bush where we produce our maple syrup. 35 is hayfield. We have some mixed woods. And at this time, we have a little over 2 acres in vegetable crops. Over 34 years ago, we were married in an unproductive field with a dream to farm. We lived in a tent at that time with our 2-year-old daughter while we started to build our home and farm. We started the Stowe Farmers Market over 30 years ago, and we're farmers market growers for 25 years, while we also wholesaled to chefs in Stowe. That way, it was fairly easy to sell everything we brought. We sold our maple syrup at the farmers market, but we were able to stop at chefs on the way home and pretty much unload everything. It was kind of a hard thing to eventually get out of. But in the early days, I actually collected addresses, not email addresses at the market. The year after we had a roof over our head, the home was far from done. We had a son, Kyle Woodrow, and he was born in the house we built. We called him Woody when he was young, and that's when we named our farm by combining our children's names, so Sandiwood Farm. Kyle's now 30. He was a 2015 UVM Parks, Rec, and Tourism major. Our daughter Sandy is now 34. She always loved to cook and bake and garden and use the garden herbs. When she was 19, she went to the New England Culinary Institute and became a chef. When she graduated, we collaborated and did our first farm dinner in 2011. People saw our children grow up at the market. So when I sort of quickly hand wrote a sign asking if anyone was interested to come to our farm for a complimentary dinner, well, of course, we had a lot of people sign up. After 15 years of selling produce to people at the market and finally getting them to our really beautiful farm, only half an hour away, was a total game changer for us and the guests. It really brought things full circle for people to see the crops growing and eat a just harvested many-course meal and see the beauty and the reality, weeds and other things. The dinners were well received. The first ones were done in one of our greenhouses in between some succession sowing. We squeezed stuff in. We eventually purchased a small event tent and then built a 30 by 70 greenhouse, which is devoted to events during 3 seasons. We've got some crops growing in the parameter of that greenhouse, so it's really kind of interesting for people to be in there. It's decorated really nice. If anyone has any questions about the pros and cons of using a greenhouse for an event, you can certainly find me later. After over 2 decades, we finally resigned from the farmers market to bet more on ourselves with agritourism and wholesaling to chefs. It has been and still is always hard to find that balance between hosting events and keeping up with regular farm successions, weeding, harvesting, and selling. We host now a diverse amount of types of events, a few weddings, some life celebrations, business meetings, workshops, music, movies, mitzvahs, farm dinners, field trips, bike tours, reunions, the farm to ballet, fundraisers, seasonal weekly donation-based yoga that goes to nonprofits, community meetings, pick your owns, and all kinds of gatherings. So as you can see, we've really branched out from farm dinners where now we don't have to sell tickets all the time. We rent our farm for other people to use. During winter, we try to keep our trails open through the sugar bush for people to ski and snowshoe. We always welcome guests to our sugar house for the magic of boiling sap to syrup. We host one complimentary winter gathering where we have a fire outside, trails open, and food and games in the greenhouse. People are really glad to get out in the winter and get together as families and meet community. We did it in 2020, which was, people were so grateful. There's green grass all winter long in the greenhouse, and that was a huge surprise for us. We have a year-round open farm policy. We have a maple syrup for sale sign at the end of our driveway, so people can drive up anytime to purchase our syrup. Lately, we've had really good results with something called Harvest Host. It's where guests in self-contained campers can park on our farm for a night. In exchange, they're supposed to purchase something. This way, we sell our maple syrup and CBD products. Most people reorder our maple syrup and CBD through our website. And by making this personal connection with guests on our farm, they see the reality and work we're doing. An event we're really proud of and have been honored to be chosen to host 3 times is the Farm to Ballet. Professional dancers from around the country join Vermont dancers for a one-of-a-kind performance. There's only 6 shows during 3 weekends over the summer. They choose farms around the state. Our farm is in a fairly rural area, and we were able to get over 300 guests to our farm. We set up parking, sell prepared meals, and our farm's products and goods. It's truly a unique event, and the Farm to Ballet splits the ticket sales with us, that we need to put the money toward a sustainable farm project that they need to approve beforehand. This year, we are putting the funds toward upgrading our literally untapped potential in our maple sugar bush. Our son now has moved back to the farm, and we're excited to expand and try and continue to carve out livelihoods for ourselves into retirement, as well as bring the next generations onto the farm and still be sustainable. 2020 brought a total pivot to our farm with restaurants closing, and we had to refund our events. We quickly started a community-supported agriculture program, and it really was not our plan at that time or at this time in life. But we had seed, we had land, and we had longstanding relationships with a trusting community. We're always learning. The farm now is one of 3 pickup locations, which brings people to the farm each week. We have this donation-based yoga on the pickup day, and that's been well received too. It's been really wonderful to bring community to the farm for the CSA pickup. We do a 28-week season from May through Thanksgiving, where folks can jump on and off any week. It's very non-committal. Feel free to find me if you have any questions about CSA or how we incorporate other farms' products into our model as well. Besides all there is to do before events, signs, hand washing stations, parking, we feel that customer service and giving guests the most wonderful experience on the farm is most important. Building the relationships, spending a moment to make the personal connection goes a long way. Another super important tip is to have a way to collect email addresses. We're proud to be part of and support a vibrant regional food system and want to continue to build, sustain, and educate about growing local healthy food by engaging and educating visitors on the farm. We give guests the opportunity to unplug and allow nature and the farm to recharge them. We're all now working together to develop agritourism into the 21st century. It's going to be as diverse and unique as each of you and your farms and ranches. It is globally and community-based agritourism that's grounded in knowing we are all doing our part in our own ways, and we can provide for each other by sharing our stories and our practices with one another like we are doing here today.
Hi, I'm Melanie Webb, and my husband Tyler and I have a diversified organic dairy farm in Fairfield, Vermont. And we're both first generation farmers, so it's been a journey to build our farm and a lifelong project. He started the farm about 20 years ago, and it was like a rundown dairy farm at the time. He started with a beef herd to try to bring back the pastures. And then about 15 years ago, right before I met him, he added a dairy and started milking cows. And that was kind of when I moved to the farm. And so we milked cows, we had the beef. And then we kind of got into agritourism just in our pursuit of trying to build a sustainable farm for ourselves and our family as we grew and had children. So initially it was just our house and 30 acres that we owned. And as we were growing, we wanted to try to get more land, enough land to support our farm. And the farm had gotten broken up before we owned it into 3 different pieces. And there was one piece that we used the land, but there was a rental house on it, and the driveway was kind of right through the middle of our farm. And so all the open land was fenced and water piped, and our cows grazed there, but we didn't own the house. And so we finally, about 6 years ago, had the opportunity to buy that land and the house. And so we were able to scrape together some money to do that, which was really important to us to try to rebuild the farm, put things back together. And so the land was easy. We already were using that. We knew what we were going to do there, but the house, we weren't sure what we were going to do with that. It had always just been a straight rental. And we thought we would do the same, but then as we kind of started looking at the numbers more closely and seeing our financial obligations of mortgage, insurance, taxes, we realized that we didn't think we could charge enough to make it. The rental rates in our area, we would need to charge more than anyone was willing to pay to actually cover the cost of what things were for us. And so that was kind of at the time where there were different farm stay platforms popping up online. And so we thought, okay, we're just going to try for like 3 months and see if anyone wants to come to our farm and wants to visit. And maybe that was a way for us to make things more financially viable. So we're like 45 minutes northwest of here. So a rural area outside of Burlington. We weren't sure if people would visit or what would happen. But so that was the beginning of our farm stay and our agritourism. And it's been going really well. I think it's been that was like 2016. So we started with this one house and people started coming and it was great. I think the farm was like the main draw. I mean, some people come for a wedding in the area or to visit family, but a lot of people come because they want to bring their kids to Vermont. They want them to see animals. They want to come watch milking. And so we have everything set up so it's pretty easy and open where they can come to afternoon milking. They can ask us questions. They can, meet the cows. And there's always lots of animals right around that area where they can say hi to our pigs and our mini donkeys. And there's always, other fun things for children, adults, of people of any age to kind of learn a little bit about farming, connect with their food and where it comes from, ask questions and learn things. And we've really loved that opportunity to make those connections. We also used to do farmers market for a lot of years and haven't done that for the last few years. And this has helped us keep that connection to customers and visitors and people and making those connections. And then about 4 years ago, we had a farm building that was kind of a shop space and a farm store, but it wasn't really good at either of those things. And we kind of reorganized, and through some other projects, my husband had this vision of moving that and putting it and finishing it off and making it into another Airbnb. And so we basically rolled it on like telephone poles to a different part of the farm, which was a nail biting process, but it worked. And we got it to this really nice spot with views of the mountains and Smuggler's Notch, and refinished the whole interior. It already was a cute building, but it just had nothing on the inside of it. And that turned into like our second farm stay option. And so that one is a totally different price point, and it kind of brings a different demographic. And we saw that there was an opportunity there. And so the house is like a 3-bedroom house. So it's great for families or groups of friends, or, even just 1 or 2 people can come and be comfortable there. And then this second farm stay is just a smaller cottage with a half loft. And so we get a lot of friends traveling or couples. It's a smaller, a little bit more rustic space and a little bit cheaper. And so it's nice to have different price points and different opportunities. And we draw different people, and everything's spaced out so everyone still has privacy and can enjoy the farm and not be on top of each other, and have their own experience. And for us, it was just another option, another revenue stream. And then this led us to kind of set up a little self-serve farm store so that people were coming to the farm, learning about all the stuff we were doing. And then it gave us an opportunity to sell some of our products directly to the guests. which has been really great. And I think for us during COVID, we ended up kind of slightly pivoting and having some people that ended up staying for longer periods of time. We had a couple that came from New York City right before everything locked down in New York, and they thought they were just going to come for a week, and they stayed for 3 months. They were lucky enough to work remotely, and while they were there, everything kind of shifted. The landscape in New York City shifted, and they realized they didn't want to go back, and we didn't have anyone staying there. And so we just kind of were lucky and able to kind of find the right opportunities. And so they stayed, and then kind of as things started opening up, we just kept things really simple where people could self-check in, they could stay in the place. So if they didn't want to interact, they didn't have to, and they were in their own house and in their own space. And so it seemed like people were just so happy to get out of cities or get out of their apartment that they'd been stuck in. It felt great to kind of keep things open. If people could safely travel to Vermont, that they could come get out into nature, or even from other parts of Vermont. We had a lot of just intra-Vermont tourism and people wanting to just explore the state and see a different, landscape or different scenery. And it felt great to be able to safely do that and have people to come and connect with nature. And a lot of times people, I feel like, I'm a constant like concierge to people asking, what can we do in the area and what is there to do? And I usually give people lots of suggestions. And then half the time they end up just staying on the farm and not doing anything because it's just nice and relaxing. And there's plenty of animals and things to explore there. So, I think that my one tip was the first year I thought I was going to do all the cleaning myself. And that was a total mistake. My house was like falling into disrepair, and I was like scrubbing the walls of the farm stay houses, making sure everything was clean. And so I ended up hiring a person to help me clean. And I think having a good people to work with to help you keep things cleaned and maintained is really important and has helped me a lot. So that's my tip for anyone that wants to do something like this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of your stories and the agritourism that you do on the farm. So we're going to get into the interactive piece now, which is the agritourism event checklist. So Carrie we have some paper copies of it. And then for everyone joining us virtually, we put it in the comments section, the link to the Google Sheet earlier today. So you should see it there. And you can join on your phone or another way too by going to that link as well. And Kelly's gonna kind of, this is her brainchild and is gonna walk us through the event or through the checklist. And Melanie and Sarah are welcome to chime in as well. And so Kelly will go over it for about 5 minutes, and then we'll let you look at it for a little bit, and then we'll go into the questions and answers.
Great. So, and I forgot my tip, which is just to start this off, even for the checklist, is to be forgiving of yourself. Because I am a idea person that has lots of ideas, and it's really hard because I actually run I have a full-time job off the farm, and then I help with the marketing for the farm. And then my husband's doing all the on-farm work. And so there's not a lot of time to get all the ideas we have done, or to go through every item that we're going to go through on this checklist. Do you want to bring up there we go. So these are just general things. And this is really for promoting like an event, a specific event on your farm. And Sarah, if you have anything as we're going through this, feel free to chime in, because she does tons of events, as you heard, and I do like 3 or 4 a year, but my background is in marketing and advertising. I worked for an advertising agency for like 15 years before I met my husband, and basically have been like helping him market his farm ever since. So just the checklist itself, if you go all the way to the bottom of the checklist, it should be on like the right column. You should have a scroll bar. But the bottom of the checklist will have the link has the link again on there, but there's instructions for use. So if you want to use this checklist for yourself to create your own thing each time, You just go to the top of, if you have Google Docs, you go to the top of it and you go file and you make a copy. And then that will go into your own personal Google Drive. And then you can start using this however you want, delete things, add things. So this is really just a template for use. And so I actually, when I built this time around, I went with our farm party that we recently had, which a lot of this stuff I like do in my head on the fly, because my husband's like, can you help me promote this thing? And then I am like, okay, sure. And I'm sitting up at 10 o'clock at night, like sending things out everywhere. So this time around, I was like, you know what, I'm going to put it in the checklist format because I know what I need to do inside my brain. I just never put it down on paper. So this is actually kind of helpful for me as well. But again, let's just go through really quick, basically brainstorming your event and figuring out what you can showcase on your farm. And, you know, Sarah's done a really good job of this, is figuring out a way that you can generate some short-term revenue or long-term relationship building. So like I was saying earlier, we kind of break even on our events. We're not making a ton of money off of the events, but we're building the customer relationship with those events. And then there's products being purchased at the event that helps offset the cost. But in the end, it's really, we've kind of broken even on each one of these that we've had. But then we have these customers that keep purchasing every week because we do a home delivery. So we have them purchase online and then we deliver across Northern Vermont for all of our products and some other partner farm products that we added on during COVID and we're still doing. So really thinking about that revenue stream of like what is going to, because it's going to take a lot of work to put on these things. And then creating some sort of event like Eventbrite, whether you're using Facebook, some other way so that you can generate RSVPs and online ticket sales. And so this last event we charged, previous events we didn't, and then we charged for the food at the event. I found charging prior to the event was really helpful so that we could see who was actually going to show up. And we made it really simple for ours. So we charged $15 a person or $25 for the whole family. So if they wanted to bring like 6 people for $25 or 10 people, I didn't care. I just wanted to see that there were enough people coming to the event. So that's kind of how I did it. I don't know how you, Sarah, usually charge. Would you say? Yeah, no. Well, we did a whole hog barbecue, so in potluck, so it was a little bit different. And so we made our guests bring potluck items. It actually was really amazing. And we have some higher end customers because our products are a little bit more expensive in some ways. So we had some really fancy potluck items that I'm not normally seeing at a farm potluck, like really fancy pies that they didn't bake, but were in like a fancy box and stuff. It was like, whoa. So if you're going to do an Eventbrite though, you definitely need to like brainstorm your description. You'll need your tax ID, your bank routing information, all those things right up at the beginning. So that way, when you need to like purchase at the end, you'll have those things when it pays out. And then taking advantage of local tourism promotions like Vermont Open Farm Week, which recently happened, is a statewide thing. And there's lots of farm events happening. So the positives are that they help advertise your event. The negative is that there's a lot of events going on at once. So trying to decide whether that's worth it or not. And for us, I feel like it was, because we ended up getting numerous customers that attend our event that say, oh, I heard about this on Open Farm Week. I go to a different farm every year. They didn't even know who we were. So that was really helpful. And is my almost up? Do I have 1 minute left? Okay. So basically just going down through this. And again, like I said, be forgiving of yourself. I have like a section for preparing your event venue. If you can, were you able to scroll down? Okay. So there is a section that's called prepare your event venue. It's about preparing your signage, identifying your staffing needs, figuring out how many people need to help you and doing all that kind of stuff in advance, coming up with contingency plans for poor weather. And then there's a during event section. I have like number 8 on there is have fun, relax, and breathe. That's like a note to self. And then after your event, paying your vendors, cleaning up. Again, number 3 is relax. Like, I don't even know how you do it, Sarah. Honestly, it's like just all the events, like just having one of these 3 or 4 times a year that are so big like this is a lot. And then you come up, but the one really positive that happens is that your farm gets cleaned up. So like anything that you don't want sitting around that has been sitting around, no one's picked it up, they'll pick it up before the event. So your farm gets really clean. And then that's it. Then again, there's the event checklist at the bottom of how to use this event. Oh, so now we got there. Yeah. So do we want to go into questions on this specifically? Yeah. Does anybody have any questions or any questions for me, Sarah, or Melanie even? Well, you first. No, sorry.
You mentioned advertising.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, can we
Just
have
on the-
that so we catch first?
Yeah, just on the Facebook platform,
Yes.
how to navigate that
Yeah.
platform.
Facebook's like this necessary evil. I really dislike Facebook a lot at this point. I worked in social media for years. I now really hate social media, but I have to use it in order to get my customers and connect with them, and people are still using it. I don't advertise monetarily a lot on there, but I do put all my posts organically up there. Like I just put the post up. And so when I'm picking things as far as visuals go, I try to pick photographs that look attractive, that I try to take really good photos during the event, and that's on this checklist so that I can use them for my future events. So I used my burger night from 2019 to promote this event so that people could see like, oh, they can envision themselves. Oh, I'm going to come together on this farm lawn and eat a bunch of food and have a great time. So I try to like use photographs that way. And I use a lot of photography. I mean, it's easy with your phone these days to take decent photos. So I really go heavy on the photography. I don't use a lot of graphic design stuff, but there is a tool called Canva, C-A-N-V-A, if you haven't used it. It's a free tool. You can get it on your phone. You can have an app for it, and you can create artwork that has titles on the images and things. Just be aware when you're using that on social media, there's algorithms. So it will like push down your content if there's lots of text on photos. So you got to be sparse use of that text, especially on Facebook and Instagram. Twitter, not so much. But it's also good to share those images around too when you're sending them through email, and you can put them in your email as well. So that's my biggest thing. And then as far as text goes, I just keep it light, like not a lot of content, not huge paragraphs of content. Short bite-sized pieces of content, but I also always have like the link to the event and the date, I think are the two most important things. Anybody else? Sarah? I don't know, Melanie?
I wanted to just say, if you use Eventbrite, like say you're selling your event, say you're selling, excuse me, if you're selling tickets for $25, Eventbrite is wonderful. There's a checkbox as you go through the steps. And they take a fee and they ask, do you want this to come out of the customer or yourself? And so I checked, or the customer. So say if it's a $25 event, maybe they pay 30, so you're not losing out.
Mhm.
If people sign up for our public events in different ways. And I do set up an Eventbrite link as well for that purpose. When people buy tickets on our website, we get charged that credit card fee, and it's actually quite high for us because we are cannabis growers. So our website takes more. So we like Eventbrite for that.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's exactly what I did for mine. It ended up being like $29 and 30 something cents to add those fees on. And people don't mind paying them. Mm-hmm. There was a question, behind this gentleman.
Hi, do you take out an additional or an extra insurance, or how does insurance work if you're going to do one of these events or set this up?
For us personally, we only do like 3 or 4 a year, and we contact our insurance company to make sure we have a huge liability policy for our farm already. Because we regularly bring people on the farm during the fall for pumpkins. So we already pay a very large liability fees for that. And it is this event is covered with that for our insurance policy. I don't know, Sarah, how do you do it?
Yeah, we have a farm policy, and pay a lot for insurance all year round, even though we're really just hosting events.
Yeah.
It's on my winter to-do list to contact the insurance. Maybe get some readjustments, but we pay a lot.
Yeah.
Do you worry about using your photos and people in them? Do you have a waiver built into the ticket? Like if you post, or do you just
Yeah.
post pictures that show people's backs of heads or something?
I use photos, and I've worked in advertising for like 20 years, and I have never really had a problem with it as long as I'm not using it when I'm advertising events. Most of my photos when I'm advertising the event, like this last time, was a pretty far away shot of the farm. Sometimes you can see people like standing there with their during a talk. Normally I don't seem to have, unless I'm going to use like a close-up portrait of someone. I don't usually worry about the checklist and getting them to sign off on a release form. It is best practices that you probably should do so, but I've never had a problem with it. And usually when I'm there, I'm telling people that that's what I'm taking pictures of. So and if they have an issue, to talk to me. And I've never had any problem with that for all my years and doing just like general farm stuff. But again, I don't advertise and do a lot of paid advertising with the photographs. And I think if someone saw their picture over and over again, like a close-up face shot, that could be a problem if you're planning on doing that.
I have two questions, and I just want to say that what I've been doing on the registration page with the photos is having them agree, and also like to be able to use on social media, but then it's a little complicated because then you have to go back and look to see what they had said and everything. So I'm a little disappointed to hear that you're not making money on your events. I have been doing events on the farm and I don't make money on them, and I often lose money. And so I was hoping to come here and find out how I could make it a money goer. So Sarah, if you have anything about that. And then for Melanie, I'm curious, you said you did farm stay platforms. So I'm curious if you're doing something besides Airbnb, and I've heard something about Airbnb experience, or if there's something where you can advertise around the farm experience and the stay.
Yeah, I just want to say really quick, the reason why we're not is that wasn't our overall goal for these specific events, is that the events are meant to build the community with the customer so that they keep buying stuff. It's more like a customer thank you type of event, and then bringing in some open farm week people in there to help offset that. So just so you know it's not the total goal for those events to do that. And if we did, we would again raise the prices and make it a little bit different structure, but we wanted to basically be like a celebration of our customers and our neighbors. So yeah, Sarah would be a good. Yeah, go for it.
She's got several questions yet to be answered.
Do you want to, I wish we could take this off, or we had a second. Yeah, come on up. Yeah, because I wish we could like be passing it around.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's hard. We took a long time to try and figure out, and we're still figuring it out all the time. But for many, many years, we just felt really drained and didn't make money, but we're giving people these great experiences and then like behind on farming. But now we are really trying to figure all the cost of production, the portalet, the extra insurance, all these things you necessarily don't think of, the staff. I keep track of obviously like all of our farm produce that we harvest and serve and the value of that, and try and price accordingly. We do so much on our farm for the community in terms of donating donation money for, say, the yoga classes to nonprofit organizations. And just last week in a pinch, Salvation Farms called and said, oh my gosh, it's our staff meeting day and it's going to pour. Is your greenhouse open? Yes, come use the greenhouse. So, I feel like putting a good price on some farm dinners, and what's a good price? It's all relative, but trying to price accordingly with those things in mind. And on our recent open farm week dinner, we kind of broke even. We paid our staff really well, but unfortunately my husband and I didn't get paid for our time when we shake it out. But we evaluate each dinner and event after and talk to the people that helped us and have great ideas for how to move over for the next one. But we also really like just trying to rent our farm too. So we're not always just selling the tickets, you know.
So yeah, I guess primarily we've used Airbnb for the rental platform. And that's been, I guess we've gotten enough traffic through that I haven't really branched out much to other, VRBO or other things. We tried Hip Camp once, and that was okay, but since we were getting enough people through Airbnb, I didn't want to add more things and make it more confusing to have double bookings or different fee structures and stuff like that. And then I did look into the Airbnb experience, and I think that could be really great for us. It just wasn't a good fit right now in terms of like what we could offer, that we could make enough money, that there was a person to do that experience. I thought about like farm tours or things like that. And I can't remember, but I think like you couldn't put a minimum amount of people. So I was like, well, I don't want to give a farm tour for $20 to one person. Maybe I would do that for 5 people. And I have enough on my plate that I haven't looked into that too much, but I think that is a good opportunity and could also bring people, to the farm. And if you had a bigger team or someone who could dedicated, like do certain things, then it seems like it could work really well.
I have one question that definitely you may prepare a budget for your event. And how much, what is the percentage that you are allocating for the promotion out of the budget?
For our events, we use the Open Farm Week registration, which gets us free advertising across the state with it, which happened to be really quite great. And then we used just organic posts, and then we really rely on our email list. And Sarah had talked about this a little earlier. Like over the years of us being at farmers markets, we developed a list of emails. And then we were doing winter deliveries for many years. And so then we added to that list over time, and we've continued through our website to build that list and to build more customers. So we emailed that list primarily because we were trying to gain our customers. But I do a budget for all the costs. Our band was our biggest expense. We paid each band member $250 each, and there were 6 band members. So that's why we broke even. If we had a band of like 2, we probably could have done it, but it was like, let's do a good farm party. But do you have any budgeting when you do your advertising?
Oh, not so much for advertising. And frankly, I email every week our CSA group, but not the greater large email list at this time of year. It's unfortunate, but I don't have that much time in the day and haven't been able to find the right little bit of help to make that happen. So we'll link Facebook with the Open Farm Week and then word of mouth. Also in Vermont, we have Front Porch Forum, and that's actually been helpful for getting people to the farm for different dinners and plant sales and things like that.
And that's the Open Front Porch Forum is a community message board, like an online community message board. So you can message your whole community what's going on in the area. So I think in some other places of the country, there's something called Nextdoor, and there's things like that. That's basically like that, but Front Porch Forum is more crunchy granola, Vermont. But on my list, on my checklist, there's also items on here of what I do to get the word out. And you'll notice a lot of these are, they're non-paid opportunities to like contact your local newspaper and put it in the events. Things like that, where they're free things. So we do a lot of free. It's just a matter of how much energy we have to get them all done.
I've got a somewhat unusual question I haven't heard about for agritourism events. It has to do with neighbors and how you manage neighbors with large events, and specifically, what do you do on a Saturday afternoon when a neighbor decides they're going to do target practice in a wedding? How do you handle that?
We don't have hardly any neighbors. So our neighbors are like fields and trees. So we haven't had any neighbor problems, but I can tell you that our wedding, which was down the road, at a different venue, did have the cops come multiple times. So I don't have a solution for neighbors, but I don't know if you have a neighbor issue.
It's a really great question, especially pertinent right now. We haven't had close neighbors, but right now we have noise all around us because the adjoining land, we couldn't buy it all, is sold, and we have two big houses going up. These folks haven't come to meet us or say hi. We've been established there for 40 years. We have about 150 people coming this weekend for a large event. There's going to be a band. We have permits with our town to have a certain amount of events a year and music amplified till 10 p.m. There are some neighbors around. You always tell them and invite them, but it's a new situation. We've been hearing lots of dirt bikes and have thought about the target practice, and it is a real threat, but trying to be positive and welcome new community, and we will be inviting them, and hopefully it turns all good. But it's communication for sure.
And for us, our neighbors that are down the road, like by a mile or two, all of them were invited to this party. So it was that's part of why we did that as well. So it was bringing the community together in a way that allows them to be part of this party. And then our customers were like, this is a real farm party. There's real farmers here. So it was also a positive in that respect too. But we had like them all mixing together. It was.
Hi. Well, I have a question, but then one quick comment to this woman sitting here. We do on-farm dinners at my at my farm, and with COVID, we ended up changing it to a takeout model, and people were still very well received, and we ended up making more money with a takeout dinner because I needed 5 or 6 less staff members that I had to pay. So just one idea, just looking at different ways to present your experience. But I love number 8 here. Excuse me, number 8 here after your event. Can you expand on your thank you emails? And I feel like that's a real untapped opportunity. And I'd love to know how you do that.
You answered that when we were talking about this presentation, and can you just go over what you do?
Yeah, I'm going to try and make this more of a SOP, a standard operating procedure after our own personal public events. So when someone registers, there's all the things to do. You got to make the email list to make sure they're on there. And then I email them the day before. Sometimes people register months in advance or that day and say, the weather looks great, or dress for the weather, or whatever. There's a portalet on site. It's always interesting when people show up with spiked heels or something. But after this past event, a few days later, it should have been a little more timely, I think, but I emailed that group and thanked them for coming. And it's the first time I ever sent a link. It took me a while to find our Google review link and asked them to upload some photos, or if they had a nice experience to give us a review. And oh my gosh, we got some. So that was wonderful.
And then the other thing that I like to do is you can use SurveyMonkey, or you could use a Google form that you create yourself. But SurveyMonkey's free. It's nice. And so you can ask people like what they enjoyed about the event, and especially and don't do a lot of questions. Do like 4, 5 questions. Do not be crazy about it, because then they're going to bail on your form and not fill it out. But if you want to just give them the opportunity to give you feedback, because then it becomes a 2-way street. And I always use there's always a question on there that's just an open-ended other or comments or something like that at the bottom, so that they can write a novel if they wanted to write a novel to me to tell me what they thought. But I always like to use those as questions of like, is there a product you'd like to see that you don't currently see? Or is there something you would have liked to see differently? And if there's an idea that you have that you want to test out, would you attend more pasture walks on a regular basis without food? That would be a good question. And so things like that is a great opportunity to then start to create a line of communication with these people that attended so that you're creating this relationship with them. Are we almost out of? Okay. I can see her over here like going like. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious. It sounds like all three of you maybe stopped doing farmers markets at this point. And did agritourism actually contribute to your bottom line to be able to do that? Or is that just because of increased sales, or how does that sort of, I guess, revenue or gross sort of break out when it comes to tourism versus actually growing products?
We stopped doing farmers markets mainly because it was 10 to 12-hour days and we were doing 4 to 5 a week. And so that was the majority of our retail revenue at the time. And it was really, really hard on our family. And as our farm scaled and grew, we couldn't get a couple more people to go off the farm to go do those things. And so my husband needed to be at the farm more, and my in-laws were starting to age out of that and have a hard time doing those 12-hour days. It was just a lot on our family. So we needed to come up with another option. Like, what are we going to do to get out of this? So it was almost like a succession plan out of farmers markets. We kind of outgrew them. In order to do that, we had to think of other things. So growing our cross-selling from our pumpkin operation, because people come from all over the state to buy pumpkins, which I haven't talked about a lot, but that's part of our agritourism. We hope that they buy products there. And so we're trying to gain more customers through that. We started doing winter meetups, they were called, to get customers product. And this was way before COVID. It was probably like 2015 or 2016. We started doing that. And so they were bi-monthly. We drive to the places where the farmers markets were and deliver with people. And that's how we built our email list over time. And then when COVID happened, we were like, we have to do something. So agritourism did play a part in it, because we're trying to create the relationship that we had when we were at the farmers markets. We had a lot of very close relationships with our customers, because they were coming every week and standing in our booth and spending a lot of time talking to us about what they wanted to eat for dinner and how's the farm. And so we needed to recreate that relationship. So the agritourism helps do that. And then we get these repeat customers every single week ordering from us. And I do think it's helping our revenue stream, because we've completely pivoted away from the farmers markets. We haven't done any since 2020. And we are grossing more now than when we were doing the farmers markets. So.
I will ditto a little bit what Kelly says, but yes, it was a deliberate shift to agritourism, to diversify with agritourism, to make up those income streams that were going to be lost from the market. And it was a long planned hard shift that, I maybe could have done a few years before, but it's hard to change, sometimes, and bet on yourself and all these things, but it's good to take the risk.
Ours wasn't really agritourism related. I guess I didn't talk about it, but about 4 years ago, we built a creamery on the farm and started making farmstead cheese. And so I guess that kind of stepped in a bit and replaced it. And it was also just the kind of circumstance of things when, for us, it was like kind of pandemic related pivot. When the pandemic hit, there was a huge demand for our beef. And so we didn't have a lot to sell at that farmers market that first season of the pandemic, and decided to take a sabbatical and see how cheese could fill in, or our enterprises. And once we stepped away from it, realized that we could make it work with putting our energies in other places. And I think it was also, my husband had done farmers market, I think, for like close to 15 years. And I think he was a little bit burned out of it, and was excited to have, other opportunities that we had built through our farm that we could then pursue and make things work without that. But it is hard to step away from just that weekly cash flow and those connections with the customers.
So we have about 3 minutes left. I'm sorry we haven't been able to get to all of the questions, and there are a couple of questions online that we're going to switch to, but I encourage everyone, both on the platform and here, to use the platform on Whova to continue to ask questions, and we'll continue to go in and answer them as well.
I just want to remind everyone as well that the recordings will be on Whova until December 1st. So don't forget, you can go on there and you can continue to ask questions. They'll be answered throughout as well.
Yeah, try.
And I really like that everybody has questions. So this is really good. So thanks. It's a lot better than when you're standing up here and then you're like, anybody have questions? And then everybody just sits there and stares at you.
So we're going to try and do a couple of these online questions. Ola Kunle, do you want to try to ask your question?
Yep. Yes, please. Thank you, the presenter. I really want to congratulate the presenters. They've done a really good job. I really appreciate that. Although I raised my hand up some time ago, but along the line, while other people ask questions, they've actually answered my question indirectly. I wanted to talk about the fact that, one of the presenters made it quite obvious that what they did was not all about really making money. Rather, they were celebrating their customers. Then I thought that, agritourism essentially is all about, not really all about, but, essentially when you talk about agritourism, you talk about generating extra stream of income for the farmer. Then, while at the same time you celebrate, meet the leisure desires of the agri-tourist on the farm. So, well, I understand the fact that, while they did not, make money, probably charge them for some of the activities they did on the farm, but subsequently the activities morphed into a situation where there's increased patronage. That is what I understand from their explanation all along, which is a very nice one. Okay, but now I just want to, I'm a researcher from Africa, and my research is into agritourism precisely. And this is a very good opportunity for me to meet with practitioners of agritourism from the Western world. I've read a whole lot about agritourism, especially from the US. I've read from Vermont. I've read from a couple of other states. Please, I want to plead, because if we do not have a good recording of all of this they've said, a lot of points would be lost. And someone like me, needs some of these points to incorporate into my research. I'm actually on a PhD program. I'm on a doctoral program in Nigeria, which basically focuses on agritourism. And at the same time, I teach agritourism in the university. So please, I will plead, because I tried to record while they were coming up with their presentation. I couldn't record here. So please, I will plead, if there is a particular journal, probably a publication that can, cover all of these valid and valuable points the presenters have come up with, and others that we will still see along the line. Don't let me bore you with my question, my narrative. Thank you, the presenters, once more. I appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your comments. And there will be a recording of this whole event. And then also on Whova, there's a Q&A section that might be very helpful to you to just look at those question answers that might help you with your research. And I appreciate your comments on just the recap of that it isn't just about revenue. It is also about building the relationships and also our culture and sharing that with other people and what farming is all about.
Just wanted to thank our presenters today and our other moderator, and I thank you all for coming. I hope you enjoyed it, and lunch is served.
Again, if we didn't get to your question, please put it on Whova, because I did go in last night and responded to as many as I could, and then we'll continue to respond to those. So if we didn't get to your question, please put it in there, because I would love to hear what you are wondering about, and it helps us too.